Hey guys, Matthew here, and in this video I'm going to talk to you about this Z-depth option. Now, I've rendered out this particular version, which takes 56 minutes and 42.8 seconds, which has a Z-depth pass of this, just so you can see what's going on. Now, the things that are really close to the image are white. So everything that's super close gets mapped to the number 255. Everything that's far away, in this case, in the Z-depth options, the far distance is 5,000 units, is black. And in that case, the only thing with those properties is the sky. Now, if I look in, I'm actually after, when I'm setting this up, a series of different kind of properties. One, I want whatever the sky is to be completely black, which is going to happen all the time. Then I want to make sure the next closest thing is differentiatable from that black. So it should be a dark gray, but not like so dark that it's really hard to tell the difference. And then I want to make sure that the thing right close is really white. Now I've waited 56 minutes for this and I'm not going to re-render it, but I'm feeling like I could probably push this number 5,000 down a little bit so it was more differentiating at the close points. So if I change this to its default and I press render and take a little while to get its stuff together, but what we should notice is that the blacks get pushed all the way forward so that everything within 50 units becomes black. Anything further than 50 units is by definition black already. So if I go to RGB color, you'll see it's rendering, and then I go to the Z depth option and you'll notice that we just get a black image. Now if I up that number to say, like for example, 1000, and now I press render, you'll notice that we start to get detail close to the camera, but the things further away all push to black fairly quickly. So we'll wait for this to start. It says finished, but it hasn't even started yet. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pressing render does help. Well, so it's rendering, here we go, pre-pass 1 of 1, it's rendering the scene, and then when we go to the Z depth for the final render, you'll notice that it starts off now at a grayer tone because this 0 could probably be pushed a little bit further away, but the things that are past 1,000 units become completely black. So that's why we want to make sure we have white tones, black in the sky, and then like a dark grey tone for the furthest point in the image. Once you have that, and I have it already opened up in Photoshop, I have the effects result with the denoiser applied, and I also have this Z depth pass, and I can copy that into the image's effects result. And I fundamentally want to use this as a layer mask for the beauty image. So I'm going to go to the channels tab, I'm going to choose layer mask 0, I'm going to make sure that's got a eyeball next to it, and then I'm going to turn off the color channels to paste that in. And you'll notice that it is now a layer mask upon that. Now I don't want to use it as a layer mask, so when I click on the actual image, it's got a whole bunch of transparencies because that's what a layer mask usually does. I want to actually just disable that layer mask, and I'm going to use it as a mechanism to blur this image. Now, to do that, I'm going to use a particular type of blur called lens blur. Now what lens blur lets you do is blur something based on a source, in this case the layer mask, and I can set how far away from a particular gray value you get blurred. So say for example, I set it to white, or in this case, it's set to 0, which is black. White gets blurred the most. So as I increase this radius to something probably quite absurd, 91, everything close gets really blurred and the sky stays perfect. So this kind of thing is something you want to avoid. Now, if I wanted the things close to the camera to be in focus and everything black to be out of focus, I can move the focal distance all the way to the other end, in this case white, and then all the things in the background are blurred. So I can play around with that. I can sit there and actually come in and choose a particular gray value using a color picker and then have the blur focal distance hit that point. So in this case, maybe I want to focus it at, because this is just a tutorial, it's not a design project, at 100. Right? So the blur focal distance is within the dark grey, so we're looking at probably this back part a little bit more, okay? So the issue here is that we're probably not looking at anything, we're just looking at walls. So let's move that to maybe 50. And hopefully some of this stuff in the background becomes a little bit more in focus. Oh, there we go. This bit is in focus. So maybe we want this door to be in focus. So we can continue to play with those numbers until we get the effect we're after. So let's try 60 and see what that does. Now this one's in focus and this is a little bit out of focus. So let's just try 70. Should have used the color picker to speed this up, but you're getting a better understanding of how this works. Sweet. So now this door is pretty much in focus and I can change the radius to be something less absurd. So let's give 10 a go. And you'll notice that we're getting a slight amount of blurring in the foreground, but this stays in 10. So maybe you want to up it a bit more. So the things that are a bit closer are a bit more blurred and this stays in focus. So that's a good way to use a Z depth channel to create a blur, because something about vision and something about photography is that when everything's in focus, it does end up looking a little bit weird. I'm just going to drop this down to 15 and press OK, and it'll apply it to the image. Now, this is something that you would want to do at the end of your photoshopping process in general. But it's a really, really powerful trick, and it's a good reason to get out of Z depth, because at the end of the day, you might want to add a depth of field to draw attention to a particular architectural element. And if you haven't rendered it out in the first place, you're going to have trouble recreating that effect. So that's all for this video. In the next one, I'm going to show you a couple of Photoshop tutorials to get you guys a bit better at producing sick graphics. Cool. Anyway, see you in the next video.